So let's talk about a samurai who decided to trade in his sword for a pen. And with that pen, he basically redesigned his entire nation. But here's the twist. That vision, it would end up costing him his life. This is the incredible story of Mori Arinori.
All right, I want you to picture this. It's Tokyo. The date is February 11th, 1889. The streets are just buzzing, Flags everywhere. There's this incredible energy in the air. Japan is standing on the edge of a brand new era, celebrating the official birth of its very first modern constitution. This is a day of huge national pride.
But right in the middle of all this celebration, something truly awful is about to happen. You see, Mori Arinori, he's Japan's first ever Minister of Education, a key guy behind this whole new Japan. He steps out of his house to go to the ceremony. And in that very moment, he's cut down by an assassin. So that brings up the big question, right? On what should have been the greatest day of his nation's modern life, why was this visionary leader murdered?
To figure that out, we've got to go back, way back to the world he was born into. And trust me, it was a country of swords, a place so different from our world, it might as well be another planet.
So, for more than 200 years, Japan was run by a military government called the shogunate, and they had one rule that was more important than any other: total isolation. Seriously, foreign ships couldn't dock, Japanese people couldn't leave, the entire country was basically sealed off from the rest of the world. A complete lockdown.
And the contrast is just staggering. Think about it. While Europe is blasting through the Industrial Revolution with parliaments, steam engines, and railways, Japan is a world of samurai and shoguns. It's a society built on swords, spears, and feudal loyalty. We're talking about two completely different worlds, and they were kept separate on purpose.
But no wall can stand forever. And for Japan, the outside world was about to come crashing in. And it wasn't going to be a polite knock on the door. It was going to be the roar of cannons.
So check this out. It's 1863. Mori is just a teenager, 16 years old, when British warships just appear off the coast of his home, Satsuma. The battle that followed, it was a brutal wake-up call. The samurai's old cannons were completely useless against the modern Royal Navy. In that one moment, the weakness of a nation built on swords was just exposed for everyone to see. So the leaders of Satsuma made a pretty radical call. They realized they had to learn from their enemy. And just 2 years later, a brilliant 18-year-old Mori Arinori was smuggled out of the country on a top-secret mission to London.
And London? Wow, it was a complete revelation. It wasn't just the crazy technology that shocked Mori, it was the society itself. He saw a world with newspapers, public debates, a parliament, and most importantly, a place where your family name didn't decide your entire life. Your own ability, your own effort, that could take you anywhere. For a kid from a super rigid warrior caste, this idea was mind-blowing, absolutely revolutionary.
So Mori comes back to a Japan that's in total chaos. The old shogunate is gone, and the country is in a frantic race to modernize. But the ideas Mori brought back with him, man, they were so far ahead of their time, people thought they were just shocking.
Okay, just to give you an idea of how radical this guy was, let's look at his most extreme proposal. Mori seriously suggested that Japan should, get this, completely abandon its own language and adopt English as the official national language. Yeah, you heard that right.
Now his thinking wasn't anti-Japanese, it was just ruthlessly practical. He looked around and saw that all the new, essential knowledge, science, engineering, politics, it was all written in English. Translating everything would be way too slow, too inefficient. He argued that for the nation to survive, Japan needed to plug directly into the source of that knowledge.
And Mori didn't just talk the talk, he really walked the walk. This was an era where powerful men had mistresses and wives had basically no rights. But Mori, he championed monogamy. He even drew up and signed a Western-style marriage contract with his wife. And it included a clause for shared property, a concept that was completely unheard of in Japan at the time.
Well, all these radical ideas eventually led him to his most important job. In 1885, he was appointed as Japan's very first Minister of Education. And his task? To build an entire national school system. From scratch. From absolutely nothing.
And the speed he worked at it's mind-boggling. So how long do you think it took him to lay down the entire foundation for Japan's modern education system? Just one. A single year. That's it.
In 1886 alone, just that 1 year,
He issued a whole series of orders that created a unified system for elementary schools, middle schools, and even the nation's top university, the Imperial University. But maybe his most revolutionary move was making elementary school compulsory for every single child. Rich, poor, city, countryside, it didn't matter. He was convinced that education was the absolute bedrock of a strong nation.
But inside all of these university reforms, he made one decision that was, quietly the most forward-thinking of them all. And it all started by challenging a core belief held by, the entire Western academic world at the time. See, back in 19th century Europe, universities were for the elite. They were for studying abstract ideas like philosophy, law, and medicine. Practical stuff like engineering, that was seen as a craftsman's trade, something for the lower classes. It definitely did not belong in a prestigious university. Mori just completely rejected that idea. He knew that if Japan was going to build a modern nation, it needed railways, telegraphs, factories, the whole shebang. So what did he do? He made the Faculty of Engineering an equal core part of the new Imperial University. He put practical knowledge on the exact same level as abstract philosophy. And that one decision, it created the very lineage of engineers that would eventually transform Japan into a global manufacturing powerhouse.
But this relentless push for modernization, this drive to replace old traditions with new, practical systems, well, it created some powerful enemies. And that brings us right back to where we started this story. So why was he so hated? Well, to the nationalists, he was a traitor. He was the guy who wanted to throw away their language, who seemed to value Western ideas more than their sacred traditions. Every single reform he made was seen as an attack on the very soul of Japan, and that anger, it just festered and grew until it finally exploded into violence.
But here's the thing. His assassination didn't stop his vision, not at all. There's a perfect quote that really captures his legacy. The architect had fallen, but the building stood. See, by the time he was killed, the institutions he designed were already up and running. They were already too strong to be torn down.
And this is the ultimate tragic irony of it all. On the very same day that his life was taken by a man desperately clinging to the past, the Meiji Constitution was officially announced, cementing the modern Japan that Mori had spent his entire life building. He never got to see the ceremony, but his work, it was already a reality.
Mori's story really forces us to ask a question that's just as relevant today as it was then. In the race for progress, for survival, how much of the past do we have to sacrifice for the future? Mori Arinori made his choice. It remade his nation, but it also cost him everything. And that's a dilemma that every society and every generation still has to face.